In just a minute, but first we continue to follow that breaking news we told you about at 11:30. 4 CMPD officers and a sergeant have been cited for termination after a man died following an encounter with the officers. This is a story the defenders have been following closely since it happened. So let's go ahead and get out live to Nate Morabito. And Nate, you've covered this story a lot for us over the last few months. You were there at the press conference. So what's the latest?
Well, let's just start with how unheard of it is here in Charlotte for 5 officers in all to be terminated related to one case. But new Chief Johnny Jennings said the gravity of this case, since a person lost his life because of the inactions of police officers, this was the only option really. And because of that, an independent chain of command board cited the 4 officers and 1 sergeant with termination. And Chief Jennings said this basically comes down to, had officers cared more about the sanctity of Harold Easter's life, had they not left him alone in an interview room, he very well may be alive today. Back in July, we found out that there was video that basically shows police officers knew this man had swallowed cocaine. By the way, the medical examiner found he died because he swallowed cocaine. Well, after he swallowed cocaine, the video, according to the family and the family's attorney, basically shows that these officers knew he needed help. He repeatedly said, "I'm going to die," but the officers did not give him help until it was way too late. And that is essentially what the internal investigation found. Chief Jennings said these officers left this man alone in an interview room for 20 minutes, more than 20 minutes, did not follow proper policy and protocol. And this is a man officers arrested for possession of marijuana and cocaine, took him back to the Metro Police Department station near Beatties Ford Road, and eventually he passed away after repeatedly asking for help. This morning, Chief Jennings called his family to let them know the news that 5 officers in all would be terminated.
That we're going to be accountable and that when we do things, just like I've told the public, that when we step out of line and when you look at something degree of harm such as this, that we're going to hold ourselves accountable.
That's what the chief told the family this morning. As far as the officers go, he said these are good officers that made a bad mistake, and he definitely doesn't think that their career should be defined by this case necessarily. But again, a human being lost his life because of the inaction of police officers. Eventually, October 1st, the video in this case will be released to the public based on a judge's order. We should mention there's also a pending criminal investigation. District Attorney Spencer Merriweather still is reviewing that case. The chief today did not release the names of the officers, but I want you all to know, since January, there have been 5 officers that have been on administrative leave related to this case. Their names are Sergeant Nicolas Vincent, Brentley Vinson, Michael Benfield, Michael Joseph, and Shon Sheffield. My apologies. Brentley Vinson, that name may sound familiar to many of you. That is the same officer that was cleared both internally and criminally for shooting and killing Keith Lamont Scott in 2016. Now he and 4 others will be losing their jobs. Reporting live at CMPD headquarters, Nate Morabito, WCNC Charlotte.
Connecting some dots for us right there. An officer involved in Keith Lamont Scott also involved in this situation. Nate, just if you can hear me, just to be clear, you say video of this incident exists. It will be released in October. Do we know what that video shows and if it's rather graphic?
Yeah, the chief has basically said this video is going to be very tough for the public to watch. For those who have followed this case with us, we questioned Chief Jennings about this very case, about the fact that he had seen the video back in late June, and he said he felt like there was not much he could say at that time, but he wanted the public to know that there are a lot of things that he thought should have changed because of this. Well, based on what he told us, we had reached out to the family of Harold Easter as well, and to the family's attorney, who have watched the video. They had the very difficult task of watching the video of Harold Easter essentially beg for his life and die. And what they told me is that this man asked for help repeatedly. He said, "I'm going to die," repeatedly. Police officers, based on the video, although you can't see him ingest the cocaine, police officers knew that he swallowed cocaine, and despite his pleas for help, did not immediately seek medical attention. And let's be real clear about CMPD's policy. No matter what a person does before they are in custody, once they are in police custody, it is on the police department to protect that person. And policy says if there is any idea, any knowledge that a person ingested contraband, they need to call medic immediately. And now after this case, they've also changed the policy to make sure that no one is left alone for more than 15 minutes. They will always be checked on. They'll always have constant supervision. So before they were left alone, could be left alone for 15 minutes at a time. Now they're supposed to have constant supervision. That's a big change that came out of this as well. But let's remember, there's a man who is a father who's no longer here today. He has a family that is still struggling with this, and we are still awaiting the decision from the head prosecutor. Chief Jennings would not comment about whether or not he thought a crime was committed. He said that's up to Spencer Merriweather, the DA.
I think you make such an important distinction here that once somebody's taken into custody, it is the authority of police to make sure that person stays in good health. And I don't think enough people realize that. And you said it off the top, the gravity of the situation. Anytime 5 CMPD officers are cited for termination like this is basically unheard of. Nate Borbito, you have been on top of the story since the very beginning. We certainly do appreciate it. Thank you.
Yeah.